Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so today, so my name is Karthik. I'm not sure if you have seen me. I took a session very early in week one, and then I've largely been absent from the Python course. So I generally used to teach, used to be an instructor for Python, and then I moved on to some machine learning courses in the diploma level. Right, so that's small background. So yeah, so I just want to know where you are. In last session for week 10, what have you done and till what point have you done? Have you done the
We have
PPA?
done 2 PPA.
So we have completed PPA 4.
Till this one you have completed, is it?
Not PPA 4, PPA only PPA 2, up to PPA 2.
Okay, first two are
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
sir.
PPA 2, sir, completed. And now 3 is going to be here.
okay. So
Right, sir.
from 3 we have to do, is it? Okay. So one more thing. When is the deadline for week 10?
20th, sir.
20th, is it? Okay, 20th. Okay. So week 11, what about the deadline for week 11?
So 24th.
Okay, so next Wednesday or next Sundays. Okay, anyway, so that we'll look at week 11 later. We'll try to see how much of week 10 we can finish today.
We're also having open on 24th, sir.
Sorry?
OPP 2 examination is on 24th.
Right, yeah, okay, 24th. Okay.
Sir, what is the syllabus for OPP2?
Syllabus will be first 11 weeks. I mean, technically 12 weeks because week 12 we'll have 20 practice programming problems alone. So there'll be no new content in week 12. So technically it's the entire syllabus.
Sir, if anyone missed any one quiz, then how it will affect in the grading pattern?
That you have to check the grading pattern. I am actually not very sure.
Yes, actually there is a very long formula.
Yeah. So you will have to process that formula and figure out what the consequences will be.
In precise way, we can say that if we miss one quiz, sir, then we will lose 10% of marks.
Okay.
Evaluation will be on only up to 90%.
Oh, okay. All right. So generally, how have you been finding the course? Is it easy? Is it medium, difficult?
Sir, what is the assignment today?
Today we'll discuss the PPAs. So I just want some general feedback about the course. So what have you been feeling about the course?
Now, how can if I find this question? I cannot understand.
No, I'm not talking about the question. I just want some general feedback from folks here.
For me,
Please moderate
it is
for
quite
me.
difficult to understand the question.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Sometimes, sir, we are unable to understand the questions.
Okay.
Very rigorous, sir.
Okay.
Very rigorous. You require a lot of mathematics to understand the question, to solve the Python questions.
Okay.
If somebody not understand what is the prime number, it become almost impossible. If you not understand the matrix, then question become very difficult. Very tough, and delivery is also very rigorous.
Okay.
A question is not the answer to the question, but I'm asking, sir. This one is very important in our ML kind of thing to answer these mathematics as well as matrix kind of thing in the ML course, sir.
Yes. So matrix. So matrices will be very important for all of ML. So it's like indispensable, I would say. It's very important that you learn how to operate matrices, but there is one concession there. So you wouldn't have to do these painful calculations, right? For example, matrix multiplication is like 3 nested loops, and then inside that you have to write one statement. So there are, if you use libraries, the right kind of libraries, all that will be simplified. So you don't have to worry too much about that part.
Sir,
But-
please arrange one revision session regarding that is recursion. Okay. Because
Yeah.
recursion
Sir,
is
Also arrange one session for the OPP2.
That will anyway happen, I think. So next week, right? So next week we'll have one session.
Okay.
All right. So thanks. We'll get started. So
Sir, what is the syllabus for OPP?
all 12 weeks.
All 12 weeks.
Yeah, all 12 weeks. So 12th week is, you won't have any new content. We are yet to release it, but we won't have new content. We will only have programs for practice.
So the standard of the question will be
And
difficult.
question will be, you can ask, it will be more difficult than OPP, that much I can say. But if you have practiced all the PPS and GRPS, then it can be too hard.
Sir,
Okay.
can we get the solution for OPP1? The solution for OPP1?
I'm sorry. So solutions we don't release for any of the exams. Like only for the theory exams we release the answer key. Not for
Even, sir, even I just wanted to ask, sir, if you can provide us the solution of OPP1, sir.
I'm sorry. That would be difficult from our side. That is something we don't do for programming exams. Only for theory exams we release.
Sir, I missed my OPP1 due to some technical glitches. Can you share with me the questions of the OPP1?
No, unfortunately, that also we won't be able to release. See,
Okay.
the questions for programming exam are like kind of private, right? So we don't share them.
Sir, even same thing happened with me, sir. Actually, in Assam, sir. I was in Assam, sir. So there is a flood situation is going on, sir. So due to that, sir, all internet connectivity and electricity were gone, sir. So
Right.
I'm unable to attend that exam properly, sir.
Right. So I understand. So Silchar around those regions.
Yeah, Silchar, sir. Yes,
Yeah,
Silchar.
so yeah, unfortunately, sharing questions is a policy, right? So we don't release the questions, but in terms of the level of difficulty, as long as you are doing these PPS well enough, right? So we have observed that some of you don't solve the practice programs. That is very important. So if you solve all the practice programming assignments from week 1 to week 12, I think you will be in good shape for the 24th exam.
Okay, good. Thank you very much.
Okay, so now I think it's time. So let's get started. So
Yes, sir, please.
we have points in the XY in the 2D space, right? So x comma y Cartesian coordinate system. So the slope of the line joining the origin and this point is y by x. This is something you all know. So what we have to do is we have to define a class which is called point, and the point will have two attributes x and y, and then it will have several methods, right? So what is the distance of the point from the origin, and is the point the origin, is the point on the x-axis, is it on the y-axis?
Sir, this is the program from week 11 or week 10?
This is week 10 problem 4.
PP4.
Yeah.
PP3, it is a PP3.
Oh, right, sorry, yeah, this is 3. Okay, so we have to write this class. Right, so what shall we do? Has anyone already solved this? Do you want to share your code, or shall I write it from scratch?
Sir, I have written the code, but it is passing only 6 case. Can you see it, sir?
Yeah, just paste it in the chat so it's easier for me to copy from that.
Okay, okay, sir. Okay, 1 minute.
Okay, so what we'll do is I'll share my solution. I'll share my solution and then we'll also look at your code. Okay. Yeah, but anyway, you share it. You please share it in the chat. And so if there are any questions, please stop me. I'll talk as a code and we will do it that way. Okay, so we have a class. We need to write a class
Point.
called point. Right. So point will have 2 attributes. So let's quickly write this constructor. So x and y are going to be the attributes. So I pass the arguments x and y, and I'm just going to assign them to self.x and self.y. Okay, so that is this itself is a proper class, but then we have to add some methods, right? So we have to find one of the methods that we can add is what is the distance of this point from the origin, right? So can someone tell me what the formula is? Distance of the point from the origin.
Under root x square plus y.
Under root over x square plus y square.
Okay, so x square plus y square, and then you have to. So there are several ways of doing this. One is this, right? So I raise it to the power 0.5, which is half, right? So this is one way of doing it. Or you could also write this, right? And then you can call this inbuilt function called POW, right? Power of something comma 0.5. Both are correct, right? So let's stick with this. Okay, so we just return the distance of this point from the origin, right? So that is.
Sir, a question.
Yeah.
Sir, is it possible to assign this self.x and self.y to another variable?
Yeah, but why would you want to do that?
Sir, every time we have to write this self.x and self.y even in the formula, na? So instead we could replace it with a variable. So it would be more easier, convenient.
Yeah, okay, that can be done, but see, that can be done. It's not wrong to do that, but see, we also need to know what we are. Here it's only one line of code, so what you're saying makes sense. But suppose there are like 20 lines of code, right? So, and you do this assignment as you are saying in the first line itself, right? And there are 19 lines of logic in between. So sometimes you might lose track of these new variables that you have assigned, right?
Okay.
So
no, like if we assign x to self.x, like self.x to variable x, then I don't think we should have that problem, right?
No, what you're saying is logically and syntactically also correct. So I can do this and then return x square plus y square under root.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's
you are right.
What I'm saying. Yes.
Yeah, this is logically right, syntactically also this is right. But what will happen is, let's say you have 20 lines of code in between, right?
Okay.
And you're doing this operation, some other operation on x and y here. So for someone reading this code, right, x and y there is this extra processing that they need to do. Okay, they need to remember that in line 7 and 8 you have assigned self.x to x, self.y to y. So that extra processing they have to do. Okay, so sometimes that can be advisable. So if it's a small piece of code like 2 lines, then okay, what you're saying is valid.
Okay, understood.
Okay, so Rohan has raised his hand. You want to add something?
Yeah, sir. Melo, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, sir. Can I ask I have some doubts regarding syntax of init and super init. So,
okay, we'll come to that. There are some questions on inheritance where using this, so we'll discuss it then.
Okay, fine, sir.
Okay, so this is the distance of a point from the origin. Next one is we are asking this question: is this point the origin? So is this origin, right? So how do I check for that?
We can distance that equals to if that equals to 0,
and
then it will be
y, then return true.
Okay, good point. So we can either check for the distance, or we could just ask this question: is my x coordinate 0 and is my y coordinate 0, right? So okay, so I'm going to write this now. Can someone tell me a simpler way of writing this?
Return self dot x equal to 0 and self dot y equal to 0.
Okay, that's good. So that is enough. You don't need this big piece of code. I can just write this one line and I'll be done. Okay, so this is how you check if it is from the origin. Then what else do we have? On x-axis is the point on x-axis. So def on. Okay, so here what should I return? When is the point on the
dot y equal to 0?
y equals to
Self
0.
dot y double equal to 0.
Okay,
X is not equal.
that's good. So what about on y-axis? When is the point on the y-axis?
Return self dot x equal to 0.
That's good. So what else is there? Which quadrant does the point belong to, right? So okay, first, second, third, fourth. Okay, so we have to do this part now. Which quadrant? Okay, so how do I check that?
Sir, combinations of negative and positive of y and x axis.
Return x.
Okay, some combination of x and y.
If both are positive, then first quadrant and so on. Like if x is negative and y is positive, then quadrant 2.
Okay, right.
Self dot x is greater than 0 and self dot x y is greater than 0.
Okay, in this case, what should I return?
Quadrant 1.
Okay, first. Okay, and okay, so should I write else if or should I write if, or does it matter?
Elif.
Else, yeah.
So, Elif,
I
sir.
think you can write both, but it doesn't matter because
Yes, sir. If will work, sir.
Right. So in terms of which is more efficient, is elif more efficient or is if more efficient? Efficient, I mean number of lines of code I have to process.
I think, sir, it will be equal, right? Because there's no they're all there's no intersection of conditions in any of those.
Correct, agreed. There is no intersection of condition, but in terms of how many if statements will I have to read? So
Elif statements will be more
So,
efficient.
but we instead of if we'll have to write elif,
Yes, sir.
right? In any case, like instead of if we write if, then also it will be 2 lines for each. If we write elif, then also it will be 2 lines for each.
Okay, let's
maybe last maybe in last line instead of if will elif will we can directly use else. I think 1 line will save.
Okay, I write all 4 and using else if first, and then let's.
Okay.
So if this is less than 0 and this is what quadrant?
Second.
Now if both are less than 0, then
third quadrant.
Then we can use else.
Okay.
So if we had no, as in if we had used elif, then we could have used else.
Okay. Okay. So this is greater than 0 and is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So here, no matter what the input, how many if statements are going to be there?
4.
So all statements.
4 statements, right? All statements. So now let me just change this to. So here, how many statements in the best case and in the worst case? How many statements will be read?
1. Only 1.
Okay, in the best case happens here, right? So I just need to read this one, and then everything else will not be executed. So best case is 1 statement. The worst case is going to be
all statement.
Or
All statements, right? So this is slightly more efficient because if you look
Okay,
at
so in terms of number of number of statements that the computer will read, in that sense.
yeah, in terms of the number of statements. So okay, so I'll ask you, I don't know how many of you are doing, I mean everyone would have done basic probability. So assume that the input is equally likely, right? It could belong to any of the 4 quadrants. So probabilistically, how efficient is the else if part? If you want to assign a probability of, okay, so what I'm asking is, this is the question I'm asking. So what is the
after executing the first statement, the probability will increase for second statement, sir, and then it will increase for the third, and the fourth one is obvious kind of thing for the execution.
Right. No, yeah, just hold on. So I'll just ask this.
Yeah, sir, there will be 4 scenarios. So we'll consider 4 scenarios, as in if the first statement if it returns in the first statement or second statement or third statement or fourth statement.
Okay, so this is the question, right? On an average.
So for first, there would be 1/4 because all 4 are equally likely to. So first statement 1/4 will be the probability. If it's second statement, then 3/4 into 1/4, I think, and so on. Like
okay, yeah. Just pause for a moment. Let all of you please think through it and then think about it for a while and let me know one final answer.
10/4.
Sorry, what by 4?
10/4.
Okay, so I have one answer which is 10/4. Okay, it seems correct, but let's wait for others also. Anyone else who has a different answer? Two by four. 2/4. Okay, that is another answer. So for those who have done stats 2 or stats 1, whatever, what is another name for what I'm asking? They want to replace by something else. Okay. What is the expected number of statements, right?
Yeah.
To be read in
And distribution also is wait, sorry. My stats 2 is weak, sir.
Okay, so who answered 10/4? Who was that?
For me, Parul.
Yeah, so can you explain, Parul, what is the reasoning behind this 10/4?
Sir, as you asked for the average of number of statements, so there will be 4 cases. In first case, 1 statement will be executed. In second case, 2, and in third case, 3, and in fourth case, all of them will be executed. So 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4/4 will be the average. So 10/4.
Okay, that's right. So 10/4 is what? 10/4, if we convert it to 5/2, on an average 2.5 statements, right?
Okay.
So this is this case. What if everything were to be if? What will be the expected number of statements?
Always 4, sir.
12 by.
And then like it will read 4.
So 4.
4, yeah, 4 into 4/4, right?
Yes, sir.
So that would be that would be 4 statements, right? So probabilistically speaking, you are, by converting if to else if, you are saving about 1.5 statements, right? That is the saving you get. So by using else if instead of if, about 1.5 statements on average, I need to read less, right? So that is the conclusion. So okay, so that was a very brief diversion. Let's get back to classes. So we need to, only thing that's remaining is the slope, right? So slope is what?
Self dot y by self dot x.
Self dot y by self dot x, right? So we assume that the question has given us that x won't be 0, right? So that we can assume. I think we are done. So let's try to run it and see if we are able to pass all the test cases. Okay. Public test cases are working. 8 out of 8 private test cases are passed. Okay, so that is, I think, more or less a simple class that we have to write. There was a question in the chat, right? So Sridhar Kumar, is your doubt coming? No, not Sridhar Kumar. Someone else asked.
Yes. Yes, sir. I have pasted my code, but I found out the mistake, sir.
You found out, right? Okay, okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is this question. Can we move on to the next one?
Yes, sir.
Sir, hello, sir.
Sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I mean, one doubt.
Yeah.
You mentioned about the statements, right? I mean, expected number of statements in the same question.
Right, right, yeah.
Since this is a function, when we go into if statement, it returns some value. It goes out of the function, right? In case of if as well, it won't give us a 4 as expected value. I think so.
See, correct. When you return, you get out of the function. That is right. But the question here is, if the input to the function is say minus 3 comma minus 5, right? So if I mean not input, if x comma y is 3 comma minus 5, then I will read the first statement and I won't enter because it's false. Second one also is false. Third is also false. Fourth is true, right? So no matter, because this is in the fourth quadrant, I'll end up reading all 4 if statements. That is the claim.
Okay.
Yeah, sir, I think he's correct, because here also it will, since he's correct, since its function return will terminate the execution of the remaining if statements, right, sir?
Oh, yeah. Good point. Oh, okay. I missed. That's a very good point. I missed that. So, yeah, you're right. So then what happens?
I mean, if there is no return in if statement, I mean, after the if, then the expected value can be different.
Then it will be false.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. So here, what will be the expected value if?
Here it will be same, since there's return.
Same as elif.
It will be same as elif. You are right. Yeah, good point, man. Thanks for pointing it out. So only if these are print statements will our, I mean, if you don't return anything, if they are replaced by print statements, then we are okay. But otherwise, in this particular case, moving from if to else if is not going to help us. Is that okay? Is that right?
Yes.
I didn't understand, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, so the point Abhinav, right? Abhinav, who made that point?
Yes, sir, Abhinav.
Abhinav, right? So what he claims, and which is the correct claim, is that since this is a function, right? So let's take case by case. There are 4 cases, right? So first, second, third, fourth. So if
basically in function, whenever you encounter the first return, the function terminates.
Correct. Yeah, I am coming to that. But before that, I am building up. So if the first quadrant, if the point is from the first quadrant, the probability is 1/4, right? But it will end up reading only this if, right? So all the other ifs, it won't read. So that is 1. If it is in the second quadrant, it will read
2/4.
Right, so that is 2. If it is in the third quadrant, it will read only the first, and then. Okay, so in this case, there is no advantage of going from if to else if.
although there may not be a relative advantage, then why would we go with if rather than elif?
So see, from there is always I would prefer else if, because that makes it cleaner in some sense, because see, I know for sure that even
There's
though
no overlap.
there is so these are all mutually exclusive. I can go for if also, but I would still prefer else if here, even though it doesn't offer any computational advantage in terms of reading time. But this is interesting.
Yeah, sir. In the scenario, if we were not using return, then elif would be better. But since here we are using return, then
Right, yeah. Since we are using return, that advantage is kind of.
elif is always the safest option, no?
Yeah, elif is always safe, but provided, so elif is, it depends on the context also, right? So sometimes you might want to have all of them as if, because you might want to test some.
Test every statement.
Yeah,
Like if we want to test only one of the statements, then elif is always the safest option.
Yeah, you are right. Yeah, agreed.
Sir, can you go to question number 6?
Yeah.
5, sorry. Question number 5.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Let's quickly.
Sir, can you scroll down a little bit up, sir?
This question. Yes. Do you have any specific question here?
Okay, got it, sir.
Okay.
I was just checking my mistakes, sir.
Okay.
Sir, over here, how have we safeguarded against the fact that in calculating the slope, that x is not equal to 0?
Good point. So we assume that x is not 0. I think the question says that. The question doesn't say that, but you can assume that we are. Oh yeah, it's given here. Assume that this method will be only called if the point is not on the y-axis.
Okay.
So because of that, we. So, yeah. Any other questions on this particular? Okay, we'll move on to next one.
Question number 4, sir.
Yeah, PPA. Okay, so you have here some kind of a traffic signal, and it's either red or green. Okay, so if the number of vehicles, so some kind of vehicle density we call it, in front of the vehicle, in front of the signal is V, right? That is some variable V. So see that if the density becomes, I just want you to understand this graph here. If the density, let's say the signal is currently green. Green means vehicles are going past your signal. And if the density is high, right, then it makes sense to keep the signal on. So that is why you have this arrow going from here back to green, right? So if the density is high, then there is a lot of traffic on the other side of the signal. So you just want to let vehicles through. Okay, so that corresponds to this arm of the arrow of the diagram. If the density is less than t, then it means that the vehicles, there are not many vehicles in front of the signal. Okay, so it makes sense to turn the signal to red. Okay, so vehicles can stop and pile up in front of the signal. So once vehicles start piling up in front of the signal, what happens is that the vehicle density once again increases beyond some threshold t, right? At that point, you turn it to green. Okay, so that you let vehicles through. And as long as it is not hitting the threshold, you keep the signal at red. So is this diagram clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is basic. This is the basic idea. So what we have to do is we have to write a class called signal, and so what could be the attributes? Attributes could be the state, The state of the signal could be either red or green. And V represents how many vehicles are in front of the signal. And T represents the threshold when you have to change the signal state, right? So first we'll write that part before. So what would be my init function? Can someone tell me what the init will be?
V comma T.
Okay, V comma T. Okay, and then I just go ahead and okay, so what about the state, whether it is red or green, where is it given? Initially the signal is red and the vehicle density is 0. Okay, so this constructor accepts only the threshold. Okay, so you have to change this. Constructor only accepts threshold, and V is initially 0, and the state is, what is the state? The signal is red. Okay, so the state should be red. Okay, so is that clear, this part, what the init is doing? Any questions for the hello? Any questions here so far?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay, so what we have to do is we have to sense the what should we say is accept the vehicle density and update the corresponding attribute. Okay, so this is very simple, I guess. Just sense the vehicle density and update the vehicle density, and here it's updating the state of the signal depending on the current. This is the interesting function, right? So okay, so how do you update the state? When is it red? When is it green? What are the else conditions? So did you understand the problem?
If self dot V greater than equal to self dot T.
Okay, if self dot V is okay, then what should I do?
Then it should turn green. Density, because it has exceeded the threshold for green signal lines.
Yes, sir. Self dot state is equal to green.
Are you sure? See, self dot.
Yes, sir. V is the vehicle density and T is the threshold for the vehicle density for signal to turn green.
Okay, yes. But is that all? Like, doesn't it depend on what state you are currently in?
Yes, sir. If it's red, then only.
Initially, it's red, sir.
Okay, but I don't know what it is now, right? It could be, see, I might be updating the signal at any point of time, right, in the day. So how will it change? So if you go back to the diagram, if V is greater than or equal to T, then there are two cases, right? If I am currently green, then I don't do anything. But if I am red, then I open the signal, right? I make it green.
Okay.
So how do I change this?
So we will check if self dot state is equal to green.
Okay.
You can use AND as well.
Okay, yeah. So what do I do here?
And we will change it to red. No, we will not change, sir.
Okay, then this is not needed, right? So I'll just change this to If it is red,
Yes, sir.
okay. If it is red, then what does it mean? Let's just say it in words. So if the vehicle density is more than the threshold, then and if currently my signal is red, then vehicles are piling up, right? I have to release the vehicles or let them go. So I turn it green. Okay, so all right. Else,
If can't we use elif here?
so okay, so either V is greater than or equal to T, or it is less than T, right? There are only two cases.
Yes, sir.
Okay, if it is less than T, so that corresponds to these two cases. So when should I change?
If I'm green, then I should change, sir.
Okay. If you are green, then you have to change. So
yeah,
if right, so I change this to red. Okay, so how do we understand this? There are very few number of vehicles in front of my signal. So if it is green, then I want to shut down the signal, change it to red, right? If it is already red, then I don't need to change the state.
Sir, why you use sense function?
You tell me why. So what else do you want to use?
You can put the statement inside the init.
Init. You're asking why I use this else, right? Is that your question?
No, actually you initialize the T threshold value in init function. If you initialize the V in init function, then is there any problem?
It is already initialized inside the init, right? V.
Okay. Starting value is in 0. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, let's just run it and see if it works.
If we didn't initiate, then is there any problem for the 0?
It depends on how you use the class. So for example, if I need to sense the traffic density, right, in front of my signal. So when you're using the class, if the first thing that you do is signal, say, of 10 is equal to, and then if the first thing that you do is this is sensing part, right, a start sense of say 5 or 4, whatever. If you do this, then you don't have a problem. You don't need to initialize this. But instead, if you start a signal and directly update it, right, then you have a problem.
Sir, can I
And
ask
sir,
something?
if I don't use any return statement at the end of definition, that means no blank return also, then it will not create any problem.
It won't create any problem, right? Because I am not using the update method. I don't want the update method to return anything to me. I just want it to update one of the attributes of the class. So as long as it does that, I am happy. If
Generally, we write blank return, but if I don't write anything, then it will not create any problem.
It will not be a problem. See, technically what will happen is it will return none. Okay, so if you don't write a return statement, it will always return something, and in the case of no return statement, it will return none, and that's okay. Okay, any other questions?
Sir, can I ask something about the init syntax?
Yeah.
So, other than self, the variables which we write next to init inside the brackets are all the variables which we can pass value to when initializing an object of the class.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Other than that, also like other variables we can.
Yeah, you can also pass some other variables which are not going to add as an attribute. So, for example, some random variable you can add, and say you might do something like t into or you might not do anything with rand also. It's up to you.
Sir, I had a doubt, but regarding super init. So basically, it was same thing, but once it was regarding inheritance. If we don't want to use all the variables of the parent class, then do we still need to write all the variables inside super init, or only the ones which we want to access?
It's a good question. We'll come to that, right? I think 2 questions from now we have even the next question itself,
Okay, yeah.
or 1 or 2 questions from here. So in this question number 4, does anyone have any issues?
Sir, in this we're not returning anything, are we?
No, we aren't. So we don't need to unless it's specified, right? So update is only updating the attribute. It's not expected to return anything.
How would we know that we're not expected to return anything?
Okay, so see, in the question it's not specified, right? So the question doesn't state that you have to return a value, but it may be a good practice to say add some, at least a print statement that says that the V has been updated, right? So something like this, but again, this is not necessarily a return, right? So
we're not even expected to return self.state.
No, we are in the second point. In the last point it's given, you just have to define the class based on the specifications given in the question.
Yeah, so see here in this particular case, you are not expected to return anything, right? Because it doesn't tell you, right? So update the state of the signal attribute depending on the current values of the attributes. That is all it tells you. So you have to just update them.
Otherwise, the question would have stated that return the state.
Right. So for example, in the third question we solved, every line.
Yeah, their returns. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else having a problem with this or any doubts with this question?
So in this problem, we may be needing to include another variables because we don't know the threshold. Means the threshold might be different for different areas, as if in the earlier question, 4 quadrants. So out of 4 traffic signals or device kind of thing, we need to do it one by one kind of thing. Any relevance is there, sir? I don't know.
Why different thresholds?
See, in a traffic signal, actually, all the 4 directions will be leaving the people from east, south, north, kind of thing.
Right. No. So yeah. So this signal, it's like just assume it's just a unidirectional signal, right? From left to right, you have a road, and it's in the middle of that road you have a signal. It's not like a junction where you have 4 roads meeting. I mean that is the most practical case, but for the sake of this question, assume that there is only a single long road with one-way traffic.
One-way traffic. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so there are no other questions. We
may I ask one question?
Move on to this. This is the vector question. So those who are doing maths to know what a vector is. And even otherwise, I think you know what vectors are. So vectors is very similar to the point class that we wrote. So we have again 2 attributes, right? So this is a 2-dimensional vector, meaning it has one x coordinate and one y coordinate, and you have to do a series of things, right? So let's go ahead and do it. First, simple things first. This is just standard constructor. Okay, so that is done. Now what are the methods we have to write? So we have to print the vector in this form x comma y. Okay, so print info is what we'll write, and you must tell me how to write that. So print info of self. So what should I print? How do I print this?
So you can use
we should do formatted printing.
Okay, Okay, I say, let's say I use f strings. So what should I write inside the quotes?
In curly
So the
bracket, you
variable
should write
need to be
self dot
written
x.
inside curly brackets. Everything
Yes,
else you
sir.
can directly write.
Self dot x.
Okay, and then
Semicolon.
Bracket outside on the left side
Semicolon.
of self x, opening curly,
okay,
circular
Sorry,
bracket.
comma, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
Self dot y. Yeah.
Right. So that is
Sir, I think you also need to write curly brackets. So curly bracket on the left of self x, outside the curly brackets, there
You
needs to be a
should
circular
small
bracket.
bracket. Small
Circular,
bracket.
I think small
Yeah.
bracket.
okay.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
yeah, this is the point, right? So
yeah,
this is print info. Then so you have to scale the vector, right? You have to scale the vector by some s units. So scale. Okay, so you have to return. I think you have to return here. So you have to return. No, you just have to scale the current vector by s units, right? So we don't have to return here. So what do we do?
So
How do we do this?
we should take one positional argument, sir, s.
Okay, one positional argument is
Yeah.
okay.
Self dot x is equal to s into self dot x.
Okay.
And self dot y into is equal to s into self dot y. Yeah.
Okay, so we have updated we have scaled the vector. Okay, we have scaled the vector. Now you have to reflect about the x-axis. So reflect above the x-axis. How do we do that?
You just
Self dot
multiply
x,
y by -1.
Yes, sir. Self dot x is equal to self dot x and self dot y is equal to minus self dot y.
Reflect about the y-axis, right?
Yeah, x-axis.
X-axis.
So if you want to reflect about the x-axis, the y value gets
Acha, okay, fine.
right. Yeah. So this is y. So what changes is
X.
This
Self
part, right?
dot x.
Okay. So what else do we have to do? You have to add. You have to accept another vector as an argument, and you have to add these two vectors.
Yes, sir.
And you must return another vector, right? So there are several things here. You have to add two vectors. So
You have to take two values for new x and y coordinate.
Okay, so we have to add. We have to accept a vector, right? So we have to accept.
We should take.
You can take two new values for x and y coordinate of new vectors. So self anything a
No,
comma
sir.
b or something.
If we don't take any coordinate, if we take only suppose you can write their vector.
Okay, I'm going to accept some vector. Let's call it VC.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now how do I
self p is equal to s is, sir, right there p is equal to vector.
Okay.
That vector, yes, sir. Vector self dot x plus vec dot x.
Okay.
That, yeah. Self dot y plus vec dot y. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. What else should I do?
You should return, sir, p.
Okay.
Return p.
Okay. Rather than that, I just say return this thing.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Right. So this can be a bit hard. So to understand, let's first run it and make sure that there are no errors, and then we'll go through the final method. Okay. So.
Sir, please explain once again the code.
Yeah. So this. See, I think first part is easy, right? Init is easy. Printing is also kind of easy. You are just printing x comma y. Scaling a vector is nothing but multiplying both the coordinates by that constant s, right? So that is all we are doing, right? And reflection about x-axis is, I hope you can visualize that. You have a vector. Say,
Sir, why you use this type of format? Self.x, self.
Because you are updating the vector, right? You are scaling this vector. You are not creating a new vector. You are the current vector itself you are scaling. So so the way it works is, let me open up. Okay, so let's very quickly draw this. So if I have something like this, what we are essentially doing is we have a vector like this. Okay, so when we have a vector like this, what it means to scale the vector by some constant is just increase the length or decrease the length, right? So that is what scaling means. So I am taking the same vector and I am scaling it. So that is what is happening in this particular function or method. Okay, so this other part is that reflect about x-axis, right? So that is, let me just draw that. Reflect about x-axis will be something like this, right? So I have reflected the vector above the x-axis. So this is just the y coordinate alone gets swapped. I hope you can see that x coordinate remains the same. Y coordinate alone gets swapped to the negative value, right? The other part is what? Reflect about the y axis. So that will be something like this. And if you join these two, you will see that the y coordinate remains the same, x coordinate becomes negative of the other one. That is what has happened here.
Are we not scaling itself, or we are doing this operation of reflection after scaling itself?
Sorry?
Yeah, let us say x-axis, I mean, the vector is unit vector, let us say. We are scaling with 3 or 4 or 5 kind of thing.
Okay.
And that only we are reflecting, sir.
That is what, that we are updating. The same vector we are updating. So
Means, in the example I have taken the unit vector, sir. So you're taking the reflection of the unit vector only, not the scaled one.
The unit vector is what you are updating. Sorry, I didn't get it. So can you see, unit vector means x is 1, y is 1, right?
Yes, sir.
What you
have taken in the picture, if you take it as the input kind of thing, let us say that could be, for example, in unit vector I have taken, sir.
Okay.
So it is first scaled.
Okay.
Scaled means incremented to some extent kind of thing. Then we are going for a reflection of the same on the x-axis, on the y-axis. Is that really the question, sir?
Oh, no. So these are all independent operations, right? I could do one after the other, but scale, reflect about x, reflect about y, they are all independent methods. I might choose to do them together, or I might choose to do just one of them, right? So it depends on the use case.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, so the add part is what might be confusing. Did everyone get this add, what add means? Is this part clear to everyone? What is happening?
Yes, sir.
No, sir. Sir, where we, so VEC is not defined yet, sir. How we are using, I'm not able to get it.
Okay, see, VEC is a vector. Okay, so if I just run this here, okay, so I am just adding it here. So assume that you have a vector, let's say 2, 3, right? So that is vector A is 2, 3, and vector B is say 5, 4. Okay, so these are two vectors. Now I want to add A and B, right? So if I for a moment forget the method, if you add A and B, what will you get? What vector will you get? So you add vectors A and B, what will be the resultant vector?
7,7.
Okay, yeah, 7, 7. Okay, so same. Let me just make this say 4, 3, right? So now what will it be?
8,7.
8, 7 or
9,7.
9,7, right? So this is the vector. So let's see if we get that. So yeah. Okay, let me break it down into several steps. So C equal to A dot add of B. I'm doing that, and then I'm saying C dot print info, right? 9,7. Okay, so what's happening is to the method add is a method. To this method, I am passing vector, right? I am passing an object of type vector. So I just write it here. Vec, the variable vec or the argument vec is an object of type vector, right? Just like you have objects of type int, float, str. Likewise, you have an object which is of type vector, this class. So you are passing that as an argument, and that vector object, right, will have two attributes, x and y, which is what you are doing. You are adding vec.x to self.x. You are adding vec.y to self.y, and you are returning. What are you returning? You are so this is very important. You are returning another vector. Okay, you are returning an object of type vector. Is it clear now what we are doing?
The vec is predefined.
Vec is an argument, right? It's a parameter or argument. It's like, so if you write a function, add, let's say you're adding integers, right? If you're adding integers, here, this is exactly what we are doing, right? Here x and y are integers, and they are in your terminology, they are predefined, right? So likewise, here also something similar is happening. Only change is that vec is a vector. It's not an integer or a float or a str or a boolean. It is of type vector. Is it still confusing?
Sir, are vectors data types in Python?
No, vector is a data type you have defined, right? You are the user, so you have defined a new data type or a new class called vector, right? And so if you try this, you will get this. This is an object of type vector. From where did you get this type? It is something you define. Okay, just like if I write type of int, type of 0, I will get int, because int is something that the makers of Python have already defined. But you have defined vector, and therefore type of A is of this. So this is a user, what do you call this? This is a user defined type, right? So there are inbuilt data types, which are built into the language. They are int, float, str, boolean, right? Bool rather. So these are all already there, given to you, right? So whereas this is something that you have defined.
It's returning main dot vector from the class, right?
So don't worry about why this main is coming. I also don't know, but the point to note is that this vector is coming up, right? That is what matters. So see, this is if you have listened to Omkar's lectures, he would have clearly mentioned that everything in Python is an object, right? Integer is also an object. A float value is also an object. A string is an object. Each object has some class corresponding to it, right? It's a member of some class. Likewise, you have defined A, B, C as vectors, and their type is this thing. In fact, I don't know how many of you have tried this out. So, if you have an integer, right? If you click dot and if you press a tab, you will have, okay, this is a vector. So you will get all these methods. Do you know that something like this exists?
Yes, sir. No, sir.
Okay, right. So some of you seem to know, some of you do not know. So, for example, if I have a float value 3.5, okay, so I am running this method. Do you see what's happening here? It's very interesting. Something very interesting is happening. See, x equal to 3.5 is a float value. What is the type of x? X is of type float. Now what I'm doing is I'm doing x. X is also a member of the float class. Okay, so that has this method called integer ratio, as integer ratio. The output of the return value of that method is 7/2, or sorry, 7,2, which is nothing but the rational form of this particular. Okay. So yeah.
As integer ratio, are you defining it or?
No, this is already defined, right? So for example, if you look at this, as integer ratio, conjugates, all these things are methods of the class float, right? So let me make this point clear. As integer ratio is a method of class float, right? Whatever be the float class that is already inbuilt in Python, the makers of Python, while they were writing this particular class, have defined this method called as integer ratio, and you are able to access that.
Sir, a question.
Yeah.
So if the x is an irrational number, then what would this method return?
Okay, good question. But do you think you can represent irrational numbers in Python or any language, any programming language for that matter?
Yes. So it requires infinite accuracy, right, to represent.
Yeah,
right?
But question nevertheless. So you can just try. So for example, if you do this, so it's going to give you the best kind of
right.
Best approximation.
Right. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay, so I hope all of you are clear about what we are dealing with here, right? This part, is anyone still having trouble with?
And I don't understand how we are able to define vec.x.
Because vec is an object of type vector, right? Vector. Vec is, see, just like you have float, right? Int, bool. Like that you have vector. And every object of this vector class will have two attributes, x and y. That's why you are able to do vec.x and vec.y.
Basically, we are defining vec and we are using according to our desire, right?
We are defining vector, and so see, the whole point is, the crux of the whole thing is here, right? So notice what's happening here. I'm calling this method add, and I'm passing b to it. Okay, let me just pass an integer to it and let's see what output you get. If you have understood this properly, then you must be able to tell me what output you will get here. If I run this code, can someone tell me what output I will get? Any guesses?
I think error.
Shouldn't there be an error?
98.
Okay, line 3 will be an error. That is right. What error will you get?
Sir, all the values that need to be passed have not been passed. Yeah, error type, because we need to enter vector into add, right? So this is not vector type. This is int.
Correct, right? That is correct. Slightly more nuanced. I mean, I would say a little more into that. So
type error maybe.
okay, see the error will be in line 3, but when you come here, lines 20 and 21. Okay, it's 19 and 20. So in line 20, where do you think the error will be? Like, if you want to really pinpoint the error, which operation is going to be giving you an error?
VAC should have 2 elements. Yeah. We have given one.
No, right. So I'm asking.
Int, right? This is not a vector class, so we can't add vec.x as a.
Correct. Yeah. So this particular place, here I'll get an error, right? Okay. So what error will that be if you have
type error?
Type error is one. Okay, I got one answer as type error.
Vec.x not defined.
Okay, another error is vec.x is not defined. Any other option? Any other answers?
The dot x does not exist for int type or something.
Okay, this is very close, but is there? I mean, so what is x called?
In data type.
So what is x called for? I mean, what is the technical term for x?
Attribute.
Exactly, right? So let's run it and see what we get. So we get an attribute error because you're passing something, some object, right? For Python, this is some object. It doesn't know what it is yet. But then that particular object in this case is an integer, right? An integer doesn't have x as an attribute. Only vectors have x as an attribute because, again, that is because we have defined it that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now do you all get it? What we are trying to do here?
Yes, sir.
Yes, so VEC is a inbuilt type, inbuilt Python type, right?
VEC, no. That's what I have been telling, right? So VEC is something we define, right?
Where we have defined in this code.
See, VEC. See, please understand this part. VEC is not. VEC is an object, right? It's like an integer, float, just right? So VEC is an object, but what is the data type of the object? Vector, not integer, not float, not string. Okay, so that's why I'm passing b to add and not something else. I'm passing another vector to this method.
Sir, if we had over here done a dot add 5, 4, what would happen then? Even then, it would not work.
It will not work, but tell me why it won't work. Can you tell me why it won't work?
Because again, we have not defined it as a vector.
Exactly, right? Because you are passing a tuple, right? At the end of the day, this is a tuple. So if you run this, it will give you again the same attribute error, right? Because tuple, and look at the explanation, tuple object has no attribute x.
But then aren't we assuming over here that when we are running this, when we're creating this object, we will convert each of these into vectors?
Okay, see, at a high level, you know that, but you have to explicitly tell your computer that do this, right? Otherwise, it's not going to do that.
Then why didn't we do it in the add function itself? Why didn't we say that whatever vec is, we're going to do, say b is equal to vector bracket vec?
That we are already doing, right? In line 2, I have created a vector b. B is a vector, so I know that I am passing a vector here. So vec is equal to b in this case, right? If you run this code.
That is when you are running, you're creating this object, but not when you are writing this class. I don't know how to explain. I mean, when you're making this class, you did not define that vec is a vector. How would the user know that he has to convert it into a vector?
No, right? So I have defined it, right? So if you look at this, I am saying accept another vector as argument. So yes, my method
won't know. We are the user, so we know. But for user, separate things will be have to done, right? Yeah.
Not necessarily, right? So see so these are in some sense called APIs at some level. So each API will come with its own specification. So when you are describing this particular, when you are exposing this, so this is what the term they use in the industry and in professional circles. So when you're exposing this function or this method to a user, to an end user, you will be very explicit in certain things. So you'll be explicit in the following things, right? So you will tell that user, hey, look, you have to accept one argument, one positional argument, and that positional argument will be of this type. Okay, so for example, I'll just show you Matplotlib's documentation. If you look at, let's say, there is a function to plot histograms. Okay, matplotlib.pyplot.hist. So if you look at this function, this is some method. Okay, hist is ultimately some method in some class. So if you look at the specification, they would have given this. Look at this. X is a parameter. So see how detailed they have given this. This takes either a single array or a sequence of arrays. Okay, so it is at that level of specification that you need to write your methods or documentation. So look at the range is another variable. For example, okay, so look at the specification here. Range should be a tuple or none. By default, it takes none. Okay, so when you are exposing this to an end user, what you will say is add is a method which takes one positional argument, and that positional argument is of type vector. So much you will have to say. Okay, is it clear now why we are doing what we want?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that is, I think that is all for this problem. Okay, we come to okay. So here what is there is that you already have a class, and you have to just create objects of this class. Okay, what exactly do you have to do? The first line is a positive integer n. N countries are there, and then each country will have country name and capital. So we have to create n objects of class country, and you have to store all these objects in this list called countries. Okay, so I think that should be quite straightforward. So we have n countries, right? So there are 2n inputs, right? And 2 inputs for each country. So I'll just go from I just run this for loop n times. Okay, and each time I will accept country
name and capital.
Country name and capital, right? Cap. So
yes, sir.
So country name and capital, and I want to create an object of this class country.
Yeah.
Okay, so C object. Let me call it C object. Okay, and how do I set the values?
C object dot set name.
Okay.
In that we will put country.
Okay, let me just make it proper.
Yeah.
So country, okay.
And C object dot set capital. In that we will put capital.
Okay, capital.
And sir, we should take list outside that country's empty list, so that we can append this into that list, sir. Yeah.
Okay, countries, and I am going to append. What should I append?
append. We should append, sir, object, sir. COBJ. Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
That is all right. I think that is all. Do we have to print anything? I don't think we have to print anything.
No,
Sir,
sir,
can I?
we don't have to do anything.
Sir, can I ask how will the input function work here? As in, will it take input on the same line without space, or how will it resolve country comma capital is equal to input comma input?
Oh yeah, so it'll take it on two lines. So every input function will correspond to one line of input.
Okay.
So this particular code will be read from left to right. So I'll first read this, take the country as input, then I'll read the second line, take the capital as input, and then this is the tuple. I hope you are aware of this, right? This tuple sequence packing and tuple. What is this? Tuple packing and sequence unpacking. Right? You unpack this tuple into these two values.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So any doubts here? Or otherwise we'll move on.
So we can directly take the input in set name and set capital also, right?
We can directly, yeah, that also we can do. So we could just do this as you say, and then get rid of this. Right? This also, yeah, this also works. Okay, I hope everyone got this part. Okay, takes us to 7.
Sir, could you show 6's code again?
Yeah.
One question, sir.
Sir, what is COBJ here?
COBJ is an object of this class, country.
You just gave an arbitrary name.
Yeah, country object, right? So I just wanted some name. So C object is country object corresponding to this country.
One question, sir.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello, sir. Sir, you write the statement like for underscore in range. Maybe I missed the explanation. Can you please explain?
Yeah. So see, this underscore is like a dummy variable, right? So whenever you want to run a for loop, so this is called any variable that you write here is called the loop variable, right? I hope you know. So this loop variable, if I have something like say for I in range of n, in some situations or in many situations, you may not want to use I at all. I mean, there may be no use for I. So in such cases, this is one practice.
Just for iteration of the loop up to range, but don't use the counter.
Exactly, right? So this is just a placeholder. So this has some nice properties. I don't know if you are aware of it. I'm also not very familiar with it. So for example, the last value that was computed, I think underscore will keep that in mind. So for example, let's say x equal to 1 and x equal to, you basically do this, right? And then you try to print underscore. Okay, so there is some weird thing about underscore. So you can read it up. Maybe there on some Stack Overflow answer. There are some properties that this underscore has. Okay, so it might be interesting to check it out. Anyway, so we are in no problem.
Could we have even done for I in range n? Or does it have to be underscore?
No, you can, it's not necessary, right? So it can be I in range of n. Only thing is that I won't be used anywhere. It's totally fine if you have I or j or any loop variable. Okay. But it's a good practice to see the main reason why we are doing this is so if you go to a company and you are asked to write several hundred lines of code, what will happen is that this code is not just for you to for an application to work properly, right? So you will be handing over this code to fellow developers. So they have to read your code and understand what you wrote. So that humans reading humans code That is a very common part of software development, right? So when you add an underscore like this, you are indicating to your fellow programmer that you are not using the loop variable anywhere in that loop, right? On the other hand, if you write something like for I in range of n, until I go to the end of the loop, I have no idea where this I is used, right? For all that I know, I might never use this I, like what I have here, right? But the moment you have something like this, then you are signaling to your fellow programmer that this loop variable is useless. So don't worry about it.
So it's just basically to facilitate the iteration, but it is the variable itself is not being used.
Exactly. That is the actual reason why it's used. But the secondary reason is that you are helping someone reading your code understand that a loop variable is not required here.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so we are moving on to this, the inheritance. Okay, so we have different types of questions, right? So questions can be NAT or MCQ, MSQ. So you have one class that is already defined to you, which looks like this. So you have a question class, and a question has a statement. It's also going to have some marks, and one of the methods is to print the question statement, and the other method is to update the marks of this question. So what you are asked to do is create a specific type of question, in this case an NAT question, and the NAT question is going to have one extra attribute which is called answer. Okay, and it's also going to have one extra method called update answer. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. So we have a class NAT. How do we inherit from? How do I make this a child of question?
So you write
Within the
parent
brackets.
class in
Brackets,
Okay, so I write it in brackets. So now it is going to become the child of question.
Sir, I had a question. Sir, so once we write that statement NAT brackets question, so what all things can we already access now without using the super init statement?
So you can access everything. So that's a good question. So we'll first, I will just copy this and we'll go to this collab and first play around with question itself. So this is question. Let's say I inherit from question and without having any init, right? So that is possible, by the way, right? You don't need to define an init, right? So let me just say that this is a very skeleton. This is the skeleton of the class, right? So let me say Q1. Now say Q1 is the name of the question. First question in the exam. Let's say it's an NAT question. Okay, so let's see if this works. I'm also not very sure.
Q1 dot statement we can try.
Okay, so this clearly doesn't work because when you make it a subclass of any question, then these two arguments are missing.
So
right?
we put the arguments when declaring Q1.
Right. Good point, right? So what we do is I put some statement here. What statement? What is? Tell me some numerical type question.
1 plus 1.
Okay, what is 1 plus 1? Okay, what is 1 plus 1? And what else I have to give? Marks, right? So this is like, okay, 2 marks. Right, so now let's try to access. So we can already see that we can access statement, right? From the object of NAT, we can also access marks. So we can access all the attributes of the parent class. We can also access let's see if we can access the methods. Yes, that is also something we can access. What about the other method? So if I now do q1 dot marks, what will I get?
2. Oh no, sorry, 10.
10, right? So yeah, so like you said, we can, if you just write some skeleton like this, you can access basically everything gets inherited, right? All the attributes and all the methods. If you don't write any init, and if you just write something like this, everything gets inherited. Okay, so now let's go to the next question, which is more interesting. Let's write some init, right? And let's see what happens. Okay, let's say I change my init for, I have my init function for NAT like this, right? And okay, so now I again define question 1 equal to, it's an NAT question, and NAT of right. So if I now try to access statement, what do you think will happen?
Error.
Okay, error. Let's say error. What error do you think will be seen?
Only one parameter, like the statement is not there within the class. We need to do super.
Like one parameter is missing, maybe if.
Okay, one parameter is missing is one option. What other error messages do you think you will get?
So actually, that was
So
one
maybe
next question, which like I have not clearly understood, like init, the use of init and then super init. If we can like already access the previous things here.
All right. So now, if you run this, you are going to get an attribute error. So saying NAT object has no attribute called statement. Now, so does that mean that you haven't inherited statement? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, right. See, what is happening is,
yes, sir.
There is your what is called as
Overriding.
You are overriding the init method, meaning there is already one init method that is there, okay, which NAT has inherited from question. Okay, so let me just write that down. NAT is already in possession of the init method, right? How? By inheritance.
From the parent class.
Right? Yeah, by from the parent class, NAT is already in possession of init method. So question as being a parent, it has given the child this init method already, right? So that is given. But now what you are doing, you are overriding that by writing your own init method for NAT. So now your Python interpreter is going to ask you a question. Okay, you have written one init function for NAT, but NAT already has one init function. Which one do I choose? What it will do is it will choose whatever you have written here, right? So this is what is meant by overriding. You override a method when you know that you already have an existing method, but you are writing your own version of that method. Therefore, the previous one or the existing one gets overwritten in some sense, or it becomes less important. Okay.
But sir, this is still giving error, right?
This is not giving you an error. So this will give you an error only if you have.
Okay, yeah, statement we were using. Sorry, sir. Yeah.
Right. So
if we use answer, then it will work fine.
If you use answer, yeah, it will work fine. So if you use answer, you don't have a problem.
Okay.
Okay, so this is why you have super. So what is the syntax of super? I forgot. Super like this, is it?
Super
dot init.
Okay, so now
super brackets dot in here.
Okay, right. So now, see, now if I want to call the parent constructor, I need the statement and marks also. So I have to accept the entire thing. Right? And calling the parent, I just need to add statement and marks because that is this constructor, right? So now, if you try to run this, of course, here you need to add statement also. What is 1 plus 1? Answer is marks, 2 marks for this. Okay, look, 5 marks for this. Answer is 2. Right now, if you try to call q1 dot statement, it is going to work. Right? This is the use of super, where you are overriding your init method, but in that process, you also want to, you don't want to lose out on what your parent class already has.
Sir, is it possible that we don't say we only want, you say we only want statement but not marks from the question class? Then is it possible to only take that as input, or like how does that work?
Okay, I don't think that's possible. I don't think that is possible, but I may be wrong. So this is something that I don't have really too much expertise on. So you'll have to just make sure yeah.
That attribute can be made private, right?
Okay, so something like this you are saying, double underscore. See, this
private means you cannot inherit it. It's like you can't choose to like take it or not, like not inherit it based on your preference. It will always be private, right? Outside of the class.
Yeah, so see, this part I am not very sure. So I would, for the general audience, I would say that this detail is beyond the scope of our course. So you, but I strongly urge you all to go and look it up, right? I am also not sure how the private public thingy works in Python OOP, but this is something that you can all.
Sir, if we add 2 underscore in place of any one of the self dot statement or self dot marks,
that becomes private,
right? Yes.
That becomes private, yeah. So that much I know, but beyond that, I am not sure. So I don't want to comment more on that because I am also not at. I mean, whatever I comment will end up being wrong, right? So for anyone who wishes to explore more of the private public ideas related to classes, please refer some online material. I think there'll be plenty. So okay, right, so that you can do for our
sir, could you go back to that code just
sir, one.
Yeah. Yes.
Here, we are writing line number 5 and 6. Now, if we look at line number 4, the order in which we're writing these arguments is self, statement, marks, and answer. Would it make a difference if I interchange 5 and 6?
If you no, it won't. So you can, this won't make a difference.
So that means the inherited arguments are written first, and then the ones that are overriding, I suppose, I don't know what to call them.
Yeah, so the inherited, so typically you do that, right? So whatever you are inheriting, statement and marks, you write them first, and whatever is specific to your child, right? Answer in this case, that comes second, right? That's just a good practice to follow, right? The parent comes first, and then whatever you want to do with the child, it comes next. I mean, you
No,
could
even
swap.
in line number 4. Actually, I'm more concerned with line number 4, the sequence in which we have to write these arguments.
Okay, that is also right. I mean, you can swap the sequence. There's no harm in swapping the sequence. Logically and syntactically, it will work, but from a good coding practice standpoint, it is not advisable.
But then would it still pick up? I mean, how would it know that it's supposed to pick up?
That depends on. So all that you have to do is you have to map your arguments and your parameters, right? For example, if I do marks, answer, then statement, I'll have to make sure that I pass 5, 2 and then I pass the statement. So as long as I am doing that,
Okay, it's the passing of the statement that would really matter.
it is the passing of the statement and the way it matches, how it maps to your parameter list here, right? These two matters.
Yeah, so the argument must be passed in that manner.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other?
Sir, yeah, one more question, sir. In super, right, after super, we are passing statement and marks as arguments over there. I mean the attributes, right? So can we, I mean, only pass statement and not marks and still the program is correct? I mean, we inherit only statement from the...
Okay, so this is the question that Rohan asked, right? So here we can't do that, right? Because if we don't pass marks, for example, you will get one positional argument required, right? So marks is required, right? So this you can't do. But whether you can, I don't know. I mean, the exact answer I don't know. Like, if you want only statement to be inherited and marks not to be inherited, what to do is something I don't know, right? So you can maybe check it here. So how to selectively inherit?
Maybe make the second parameter as optional. Double start KR.
Or sir, if we make the second parameter private.
That part is something that I'm not very sure about. So I encourage you to.
If you make it private, then you can never access it.
Yeah. So see.
You can never access it in a child class. Even if you want to, then also you can't access it.
Right. So this discussion around, please try to, for those who are interested, try to refer to some online resource, right? Okay. So this is, that part is beyond the scope of our course.
Sir, here one question I have.
Yeah.
In line 8, if instead of nat 5, 2, that what is 1 plus 1, we write marks equal to 5, answer equal to 2, and statement equal to what is 1 plus 1. So in this case, we could change the order, na?
Good question. So these are all positional arguments, right?
Yes.
I forgot this thing, so I have to go back to my textbook. What is the rule? See, these are some things as you grow old, you forget. So, one second. So, what do we have here? Okay, yeah, I think you are right. So, see, these are keyword arguments.
Keyword arguments, yes.
How is the function defined? Yeah, I think that will work, right? So let's just try it. I just change the order arbitrarily. So marks equal to 5, answer equal to 2. Okay, this comma is missing. Yeah, you are right? So this can be, if you do this, then you don't need to worry about the ordering.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay, so what is the actual question? Actual question is, you have to update the answer. You have to do this. Okay, so basically, let's just copy this part. So NAT of question, you are calling the base class constructor. You are doing this, and then you have to update the answer, right? So date answer, say some new answer comes, and then you say self dot answer is this new answer. Okay, so I think that is all there is to this question. You all know this when you are subscribed and when you are out of the course, you all know what to do, right? In the exam.
Yes,
How many
sir.
of you do this? Go to dashboard.
Back, sir.
Okay, very
Just back.
As long as you know that you are safe.
I didn't know that, sir.
Oh, you didn't know that. So please, everyone.
Yeah, I'll try that next time.
Yeah.
Even I didn't know this.
Okay, so this will save a lot of time. We have been telling this for several terms now. Like so, this is going to be there with you for next term also, right? So make sure you use the back trick. So here we getting. Okay, we'll change the order, right? So statement marks answer, because that is how I am calling it in my testing code. Okay, so that is that. We have, I think, one more question in week 10 regarding classes. What about question 9? Question 9 is not class. Okay, this is the last question in classes. So same kind of question, but instead of NAT question, we have to create an MCQ question. Okay, I mean, this is pretty much, do you want me to do this or will you figure it out? It's like same, very similar.
Sir, just reading it once.
Okay.
So do it, please.
Okay. So very quickly I'll do it. So we have NAT options and C options, right? These are the two new things. So we have MCQ derived from question. It's going to have statement marks, options and correct options, and I'm going to call the constructor of the base class as the statement marks, and then I'm going to assign options and correct options. What else should I do? This we have done, right? Options and C options done. Since this method is already present in the base class, you have to override this method. So you print the statement on the first line, followed by the 4 options on separate lines. So see, we are overriding it, right? So since we are overriding it, we use the same name. It's print question in the parent, it's print question in the child. The statement is already printed, okay? So I don't have to print the statement again. So how do I make sure that the statement gets printed without printing it?
Super bracket dot print question.
Exactly, right? So this, if I call this, the base class method will get called. So the question statement will be printed.
Then we can add further statements.
Right. So the only thing remaining is you have to print each option. So for each option, and okay, correct option or option. In each option you have to print, right, on a separate line. This is what the question is asking you to do. Okay, so that is all there was to this question. The tough part is, I mean, the tricky part is figuring this out. The rest of them are simple.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Understood.
All right. So is that done then? Shall we move on?
Sir, your note will be helpful for us revising 5.4 now.
Okay. So you are finding it helpful? So you're asking whether it will be helpful, is it?
Yeah, yes.
For the theory quiz, yes, to some extent, I think. But for programming quiz, I'm not sure. But you can still try. Okay, so this is very quickly. The remaining 10 minutes, we'll just briefly introduce you to the idea of NumPy and Matplotlib. So these are two powerful libraries. You'll be using them left, right, center in the diploma level in machine learning techniques course. And then further from there, you will be using it in machine learning practice. And once you finish your diploma, you'll be using it in degree level also, right? So these two libraries are going to stay with you for the rest of your journey in this program. So I would strongly encourage all of you to start learning this right from now. So this won't be part of the programming exam or the theory exam, but still the sooner you start learning, the better it is.
Sir, can I ask a somewhat unrelated question, sir?
Yeah.
It's regarding like in Stats 2 and Maths 2, we run the very basic like building fundamental like calculation part, right? Of like all the mathematics behind the calculations which will be automatically executing in NumPy and Matplotlib.
Right.
Yeah. In diploma levels, how much of like manual calculation or something will be required, or in like will it be required in some like when we are making neural networks or something, like when will the actual calculations be required in like a data science or like AI job in the future?
So you're asking when will we use the math that we have learned? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, sir.
So the math part of it.
When will we we'll be forced to go back to like manually calculating, where automatic functions or like inbuilt functions will not be of use? Like say creating something new or something like that, sir.
Manual, okay. So see, that would be rarely used. I mean, in a proper data science job, and largely you'll be using existing technologies, right? Like neural networks or whatever that is state of the art.
Yes, sir.
You will be using that, and you may not be, immediately going back to your max, building a new function or a new kind of technique. That may not happen in certain jobs, but that said, there are also some research level roles, right? So, for example,
yes, sir.
You have research scientists in say companies like Google. There are some AI companies called, so there's one company called DeepMind where people do this day in and day out, right? So
yes, sir.
So there you would probably be using a lot more of fundamental math calculations and all that.
So will there be something like that research based project or course or something later in our course?
Yeah, in the diploma level you have project. So there are specific project courses. So there is one project course for machine learning, which is called ML project, right? It's a course. Like you have to register for it, and you have to clear that course where you'll be essentially you'll be participating in a contest. So it's called a Kaggle contest, if you're aware of it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You'll be building. There'll be some problem. You'll have to build a machine learning model, and there'll be a leaderboard. So just like CodeChef has this leaderboard, right? So you have a leaderboard for Kaggle. So all that will be there. There are also projects for application development courses. So where you'll have to build an app from scratch.
Yes, sir.
So we are going to learn in this course only, sir? Those things?
And not in the Python course, but you will be learning them all in the diploma courses.
Oh, okay. So one more thing, sir. In this, sir, in this week, I mean, in object-oriented programming, sir. I mean, we don't have a polymorphism in this one. So, I mean, do we get to learn this polymorphism and all that?
Not in, so in Java you will learn on this. So there is a Java course, if you know, right? Diploma level, there's a course in Java. So Java is all about object-oriented programming. So you'll be going very deep into all this. You'll have to wait till you take Java.
Okay, that means we are only learning the basic object-oriented programming, right? The methods and this thing, inheritance and overriding.
Yeah, this is a very, very basic Pythonic version of object-oriented programming. Java will be like the simplest code that you write. Even a hello world program in Java requires class, if you know Java, basic Java.
Yeah.
Right. So that is. Sorry.
It's written under main class, na?
Java. Yeah, right. Everything in Java. So if you want to add two numbers, you have to write a class. So it's like, I don't know Java, but from whatever little experience here, like what people have told me, it's like the very language is object oriented in some sense. So
sir, I think in Python too, like when we write code, it's by default in the main class, but it's not showing up in the editor, like the editor while we are writing now, that main class is not showing, but I think it's in the backend.
Probably. I am not aware of that. Okay, right. So
do you have a Python 2 also?
No, we don't. So see, you will be learning. This is like introductory Python, but as you go along in the diploma courses, you will be learning Python on the go, right? So you'll be learning NumPy, you'll be learning Matplotlib, you'll be learning advanced concepts like decorators in application development. You will be learning several libraries, right? So NumPy, Matplotlib is one example or two examples. You will also have to learn pandas for machine learning practices. So like there will be a lot of things that get added on top of this. So if your foundation is good, then acquiring these new skill sets is not going to be a problem.
So there's something called PDSA. What is that?
True. Yeah, PDSA will be the algorithmic version of this code, right? It will be full algorithms. You will learn efficiency. You will learn concepts like if there are. So I think if you would have all watched the lecture in recursion, you would have seen, right? Binary search versus linear search. So what makes binary search better than linear search? So questions like this, right? Efficiency. What is a good algorithm, right? So all these things you will learn.
Means a data structure and algorithms.
Exactly, right? Programming, data
structure and algorithm of Python or Java?
In Python. So that will be, so the course name is PDSA using Python.
Okay, got it.
So yeah, there will be a lot of Python there.
Sir, actually in this project, actually the weightage has been given two core levels, sir. I want to say half of the thing what we are learning or entire Python kind of thing. So how tough it would be in the project, sir? I mean to say whether to take something like 2 subjects or 3 subjects. In that way, I'm asking you to suggest to us.
So once you enter diploma level, if you are doing this course full time and if you are a student in the sense that you are still not out of college and you are doing this program full time, then maybe even 3-4 courses is not going to be hard. If you are only doing this degree, right, 4 courses is also not too hard. If you are doing this with some other college degree, then, or if you are a working professional, then more than 2 courses is dangerous to take. Right, 2 courses per term is like ideal. More than 2 will be a bit tough, is what I think.
Sir, for diploma, right?
For diploma, yeah, for diploma.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But sir, completing the course, say like for 3 years, the course completion is based on 4 courses, even in diploma, right?
It's possible. Yeah, you can take 4 courses every term, and you can.
No, sir. What I meant was, sir, the calculation for completing the degree program, the entire program, in 3 years is based on taking 4 courses in diploma, right?
Yes, I think so.
4 course and 3 course. If you take 3 course, then it will be completing by 4 years.
Is the project is optional, as you say in this situation, sir? Without that also we can take this diploma course?
No, project is so project is also a diploma course, which will come towards the second half of the diploma. But it is not, it is compulsory, right? You have to complete the project to, clear the, so project is mandatory.
Okay, then we need to register it again. Means we can postpone it to with the second the other subjects kind of thing. You mean to say, sir?
Yeah. So see, when you enter the diploma level, there are 2 tracks. I hope you know that, right? There is a data science track. There is a programming track.
Yes, sir. I'm talking about data science track, for example.
So if you take the data science track, you'll have to do machine learning foundations, MLF. Then you'll have to do machine learning techniques. Then you'll have to do machine learning practices. So there are 3 core ML courses. Okay, the project comes after you do machine learning practices. So after you finish these 3 courses, or when you are actually doing the machine learning practices course, you can register for the project, not before that. Right, but you have to complete the project.
Got it, sir. Thank you.
Sir, what about deep learning?
Deep learning will be taught in degree level. So that will be like after you get both the diplomas, then you can register for deep learning.
Sir, but direct entry diplomas are not eligible for.
Right. Yeah. If you are a direct entry student, then degree, unfortunately, no deep learning.
Sir, machine learning is included in diploma?
Yeah. Machine learning is there. You have 3 ML courses.
But, sir, even direct entry people are clearing the foundational, right?
Yeah, but I am not very sure about that. That part alone I have to get back, right? I'm not sure how it works.
Yes, sir. But it helps, but deep learning is very important, right?
Yeah. But see, once you have the foundations, right, you can. It's not hard to learn deep learning on your own also, but yeah, we see. I am not sure how.
Yes, sir. Yeah, but learning from IITM is different, right?
Agreed. Yeah.
Because we have completed Max 1 starts 1, and we have completed Max 2 starts 2 English.
Right. Yeah.
Sir, will there be week 12, sir, or will week 11 will be the last?
Week 12 will be that you'll have 20 programs for practice in week 12.
Okay. And sir, one more thing, inside class int float, what it is written, how to see? Something they written inside class, no?
Inside the int class, you mean?
Yeah.
I think for that you'll have to look for the Python source code. I don't know if there is a better way to do that. There is the source code for C Python will be there. And then there you'll have to go and look at. These are all libraries. I'm not sure where I don't even know where int will be. There's nothing in it. I don't know where the basic data types are written, but you can search. So see, this is the repository where related to Python, and the kind of Python that we are interested in is C Python. Okay, and if you go and look inside this particular repository, you will get to know a lot of things. Okay, so I think we can probably skip this part and do this later, next session. Any other questions?
So when will be the week 12 content released?
Tomorrow, I guess. Friday, right? Tomorrow it will be released.
Have we decided? Have we decided that is it like only 4 questions this time also, or more questions?
We are not sure. So there will be at least 4 questions, but there is a possibility of more questions also. You have to be open to that. So one heads up is that you can expect problems to be significantly difficult compared to first quiz, right? Given that this is your second exam, so we expect little more maturity in the code that you write.
Sir, one more question, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I have checked the IITM sir website, sir. So they have added few more courses, sir. So does it mean that this course is now they have made that course for 4 years, sir? Or still it is 3 years, sir?
Okay, so I can't comment on that now, but it's all good news only. You'll have to wait for the official announcement. I can't say more now.
The difficulty of the questions, it will be there in the periphery of the course, what we have learned till now only, sir.
Yeah. So it won't be beyond what you have studied, but if you practice well, then you should be in a good shape.
Great.
And one more thing. So, will there be any constraint like only by recursion or by simple traversing?
Possible, right? So if there are questions on recursion, then you must be open to solving it only by recursion. If the question states that, so it will be clearly stated, but right? So in week 8, if you notice, we have explicitly mentioned that it has to be solved by recursion. So if that restriction is there, then you have to abide by that.
Sir, can you please convey a request to be eligible for the diploma level?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Degree level.
Yeah.
Sir, last quiz we have attended from IITM, sir. So, is it there possibility to go there and write?
Oh, you are here in Chennai, huh? I mean, like you came to the campus.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, I am not. I think this time it is going to be from home for everyone.
Okay.
Sir, for OPP2, should we give more emphasis on file handling and object-oriented programming like this?
Means part 2 of the course.
No. So, see.
Actually, the main portion in after OPP1 is file handling and object-oriented programming.
Okay, so this is.
What is your suggestion?
Okay, I'll probably will release this as an announcement so that everyone knows this. See, object-oriented programming is good to know. Make sure you practice all PPAs, everything. But the bulk of the questions will be from first 9 weeks. Okay. File handling questions will also be there.
Please repeat.
So file handling.
First 9 weeks. What?
So the bulk, the majority of the questions will be from the first 9 weeks. So it is good to know. It's good to know object-oriented programming. It's important for later, future courses. But you can kind of expect a lot of questions from the first 9 weeks. So it's not like 9th week alone. If you study, you can. It's not like that, right? So please make sure you study. In fact, if you are very strong in the first 8 weeks, right, that will take you really far.
Okay, sir, understood.
Okay, so 9
that
and
means
10,
the logical thinking.
Yeah, your logic is what we'll test more than your understanding of object-oriented programming so file handling. Surely it's going to be that, but it's not like more importance than the first 8 weeks. No, that is not going to happen. It's going to be like, I would say, in some sense, whatever preparation you had for quiz 1, whatever concepts you studied, make sure that you are now like 100% better with those 6 weeks. Okay, so strengthen your basics. I would say that is a better thing to do than focusing our attention only on the last 2 weeks.
So it's for the OPP2.
This is for OPP2. For NSEM, for NSEM exam, the theory exam, all 12 weeks are going to be equally important. But for OPP, from OPP point of view, it's like I would say it will be similar to OPP1. If you want to say, if I put it that way, it will be similar to OPP1 in terms of the kind of questions and what you can expect.
So what is the syllabus of week 12?
Week 12, no new content. It will be just problems for practice.
Sir, week 12 content I haven't released yet.
We will release it tomorrow. It will be there tomorrow.
Sir, this PPA 9, it's just all about plotting. So where are we supposed to do this? On some other, like Replit or something?
No. So Google Colab. So if you look at the PPA, we would have given you a link. That link, unfortunately, is not visible. You have to hover over this Google Colab notebook. If you hover
So
over,
we do it in Google Colab.
Yeah, you have to do it in Google Colab. So this is not grading anyways. This won't be graded, but for practice, you can use that Google Colab.
Okay.
Sir, which one?
So
Panda?
we are not able to do it today. Would it be tackled in subsequent classes in case we are not able to do it on our own?
Yeah. So we will in the next session. I'll remind whoever does the next session. I'll remind that concerned person.
Yeah, please do, because it's new and we may not be able to do it on our own.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think that's all we have for today. Shall we close then?
Right, so thank you.
Okay, all right then. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.